Well, after a long but really good summer, we're back. And we did stuff over the summer, but not the same format, so there hasn't been videos for a while. But we are going to start doing that again because we're starting a new series starting this Wednesday called Tell Me Something Good. And we're going to look at some of the timeless, classic Old Testament Bible stories and see how they're relevant to us today, how we can relate to them, what we can learn from them, and learn them maybe in a way that we haven't before, and just so that we know them better, so that we know that it matters and that all of the Bible matters. So we're going to start from the very beginning, and today we're going to look at Genesis 1. It's called Once Upon a Time. The ultimate story of humanity, the ultimate story of the world begins with God. And so that's where we're going to start. Hope you guys are doing well. School started this week, and it's been kind of crazy and chaotic into the summer and transitioned into the school year. But we're looking forward to what God's going to do. So as we kind of begin the study through the Old Testament, it's important for us to remember that the beginning of the story always starts with God himself. It's not that God was the first thing created, it's that he was always there. It's that he always existed. So the question is, why did he create it all? Was he bored? Did he simply need something to do? So today we're going to look at where it all began and how it all began. And I'm not going to read all of it, but Genesis 1 and 2 is kind of our focus here. And it starts like this. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. He called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And then he goes on, and he creates the waters, and he creates the animals, and he creates, ultimately on day 6, he creates man, and then on day 7, he rests. And so that's the story of creation. That's the beginning of the Bible. What were the first words there? In the beginning, God. God precedes everyone and everything. It's like being at a play and the curtain drops and he's the lead actor. He's the main story. He's the lead in the play. He exists before it all. He never didn't exist. He didn't really even have any origin. He started it all. He's the one who began it all. He owes his existence to no one and to nothing. When Moses asked who God was, he said, "I am," which can be translated, "I am who I am," or even "I exist." The plan begins. It began with God himself. He acted to create it all, and he'll work until the end, until his plan is done, until it's all over. So he precedes everyone and everything. He also created everyone and everything. He existed, yet he chose to create. He took the initiative. In fact, the Hebrew word for create, bara, B-A-R-A, is only used of God. He's a creative God. We're his masterpiece creation. We're his prize creation. We're his masterpieces. He makes each of us beautiful. He makes each of us different from each other. He makes each part of creation different. I mean, there's so many different species of animals, and even within animals and within plants and things like that. It's mind-blowing to understand, to comprehend the majesty and wonder of God and of creation. And it all points to a creator, because you don't have a creation without a creator. So that's the beginning. Second thing I want us to look at tonight is this. What does creation show? The first thing is that God brings order out of chaos. Creation ex nihilo is a term that means creation from nothing or out of nothing, so from or out of nothing. Into the void, God threw his artistry, he threw his creativity, and he made something from nothing. He brings order out of chaos. He gives form and substance. He's different from his creation. He's separate from it, but yet he's uniquely, intimately involved with it in relationship. Each day of creation is purposeful. Each day of creation is distinct. Each day of creation is put in place and put in order. So he brings order out of chaos. The second thing, he displays his power in creation. His divine power is displayed. It's actively involved in creation. It's powerful. It's aggressive. It's not passive. He spoke and creation was. Think about that. I'm a parent. I don't speak and my kids automatically produce things or do things or whatever, as much as I would like for it to be anyway. God spoke, and all of a sudden creation was. And it wasn't some grueling task. It wasn't laborsome. It wasn't an act of toil. He spoke it into being, and it was. And he spoke it with his word, and by that same word, he holds the universe in place. He holds it all together. So he displays this power in creation. The third thing is that he shows his holiness through creation. We see his holiness, we see his goodness, and we see it primarily through the contrast of light and dark. 1 John 1:5 says, "Now this is the message we have heard from him and declared to you. God is light, and there's absolutely no darkness in him." God is holy. God is different. God is unique. God is set apart from all else, from everything else. And yet he still loves us. He still involves us. He still wants us. And that should just floor us. That should just blow our mind. That God who's separate, unique, distinct, cares that much about me. He involves me. He loves me. He wants me. So what can we conclude from this? And again, this is short. This is just kind of an overview of what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday night this week in youth group. What can we conclude from this? A creative God created a world that was good. God is creative. Don't miss how creative it is. He spent so much time creating each thing different, distinct, unique. I mean, just look in the mirror and see his creativity, right? He brings it all together. He holds it all together. And after each day, he says, it was good. He created good things. Nothing was accidental. It's all for his glory. It's all for his good. It's all for our good. Genesis begins with universal goodness, universal original goodness. God didn't make any mistakes. He makes each of us unique. He creates each of us differently. He provides what we need for sustenance. He provides beauty. He provides artistry. He provides creativity. It's a hard world. Yes, it is. We'll admit that. But it's also a good world. It has everything we need for how we're meant to live. He truly is, as one worship song says, the God of wonders. Don't miss out on that. If you miss out on that, you miss out on a lot. And that's where it all begins. That's where it all began. That's where it all begins. We take so much for granted. We walk outside and we experience the world around us, often without any thought, without any majesty, without any grandeur. As I sit here in our youth area, I look that direction, and on the other side of our other building is the lake. Is this beautiful picture, the mountain, the lake, and at night there's incredible stars you don't see in the city, even in a city like Russellville. But if you come out here, you see that. You see God, and a lot of times we don't even think about that. We don't think about him. I love when my kids were little, they would walk out and go, whoa, and just be blown away by the stars in the sky. And sometimes they would say, Dad, look what God did. Man, I hope we never lose that type of wonder. We see the skies, we see the trees, we see the ocean, we see the mountains, any of which is immense. It overwhelms us in beauty and magnitude. There has never been a time when these things didn't exist. So it would be easy for us to take it for granted, but in our minds, there's never been a time to us from our experience that these things didn't exist. So it'd be easy for us to take them for granted. But there was a time they didn't exist. And there was a time when nothing existed at all. Nothing except the God who made it all. Nothing except the God who made everything we see and everything we experience. And it's his existence, his activity, that should cause us to marvel, that should cause us to be blown away to an even greater degree. The awesome God who exists, the awesome God who created it all, has made it possible for us to know him personally, and he desires that, and he desires relationship with us. We can see things through creation. We can understand things about him through creation, but we can only know him personally through a faith relationship with his son, Jesus Christ. And I hope you have that, and if you don't, I hope you find that. I hope that you realize that that is what you're looking for more than anything else. The God who was there from the beginning desires that relationship with each one of us. If you have questions, you can talk to me, you can talk to Brett, you can talk to anybody around here. We'd be glad to talk to you. We'd be glad to help you find that. Once upon a time, there was nothing. Once upon a time, there was only God. And he created from that nothing everything that is, and he desires a relationship with each one of us.